Hi, today we're going to talk about how to create a game that will retain players. So this is a separate subject from the last one. And sometimes we have to sort of break things down and try to tackle each issue separately. So we can break down a complex problem into smaller solvable problems, whether they're technical in nature or emotional impact in nature, or even art in nature. We can try to break them into smaller problems with smaller targets so we can easily solve them. And sometimes we will take different ways to look at the same thing, different viewpoints, different way to dissect things, and hopefully we'll cover more aspect of this complex problem. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the first way to look at it. The first one is how will player install your game, and then once they installed it, the onboarding process. So first one is install, the second one is onboard, third one is called return several times. So they'll come back to your game several times. Why would they do that, right? Fourth one is register to make payments. Some games, require registration to make payments, and some games you're always registered. Like mobile games. When you go in, you already have your Apple ID or Google ID. So it's not about register to make payments. It's about making payments. But in some cases, you do need them to register to give you their credit card information and so on. Okay, so in that 4 stages, the first one install, second one onboard, the third one return several times. The fourth one is making payments. So that's the first way to look at it. And when we look at installation, before installation, there's download. So there's a thing called download attrition. So, if you make a game that the download size is too large, a lot of people in different countries, or depends on the device, depends on the mobile internet connection or internet connections, they will have different difficulties. So in some games, they actually do track download attritions. Like someone clicked the download, but actually how many people go into the game, enter the game. So if you track your data monitor, your game's players' behaviors, you would know this. You would know what is your download attrition. Obviously, another thing you could do is how many people have clicked the download button and how many people have logged in for the first time today. Sometimes people download today and then go in until tomorrow. That does happen. So it's up to you. I don't think this is super important, but you do need to know, is your game losing a lot of players because the download is difficult or intermittent, or are they having experienced any problems at all? You have to track the data, so to be able to make that determination. And the second one is called onboard. Onboard, another way to look at it, most part of it is tutorial. And there's tutorial attrition. So some people don't finish the tutorial and they hate tutorials, so there's no way to skip them. They'll just delete the whole thing. Some people go through the tutorial and they don't like it. They don't enjoy it. So they quit. So I have a few recommendations here. The first one is to custom your tutorial. So they don't have to take it. Forced tutorial is another way to do it. That's a conscientious decision you have to make as a game developer. If you feel like if you don't teach them, there's no way they're going to enjoy this game, then you can force it. But that's a serious decision to make. And you can personalize the tutorial. So players have different levels, different skills. So maybe you could break it down to, beginner, intermediate, advanced tutorials. And, obviously, so break it down, so break down the whole tutorial into several pieces and maybe your first level, they only need to know the beginners, that they have to finish the beginner's tutorial. So, loop them in a little at a time. Don't feed them the whole thing, and they have to take a big course before they can enjoy the game. I remember I skydived once, and I had to take a 6 hours course because I didn't go for the tandem jump. I went for the solo, like without assistance, and I had to take 6 hours course. So that was a lot to swallow just to be able to jump off the airplane. Okay, but anyway, break it down. Break down your tutorial. And the last one, I want to say, and on behalf of all players, I would say the best tutorial is no tutorial. Most players don't want to go through the tutorial. Did you see tutorial in Super Mario, in Mario Brothers? Most of the awesome games don't have tutorials. The game itself is a tutorial. So they feed you little obstacles, little challenge at a time. And there's no distinction between tutorial and the game. That's the best kind. I'll stop there. I mean, that's art. That's beautiful. Okay. So that's one way to look at it. And okay, we'll take another angle to look at it. And this is my analysis. So when it comes to retention, the most standard way to look at retention is to break it down by time. So there's the first time players come in, and then there's 1 to 7 days, or even 1 to 3 days retention, and then there's 7+ days retention. Okay, so you could roughly break it down to 3 stages, like I just said. First time, 1 to 7 days, and 7+ days. You can break it down further. You can say first time, and then 1 to 3 days, 4 to 7 days. But I think we're splitting hair there. So the first time is the players just enter the game, and man, you lose them like nobody's business, right? So they come in, go, hey, this is not what I thought. So they leave, and I think that's fine, because a lot of times your user acquisition is too aggressive. You're basically showing them something that the game doesn't offer, and you bring them to your game. There's a lot of logical rationale behind that, because some players, maybe they see something great, they come in, it's not what they thought, but man, this is fine too, so they don't bother to uninstall. It's proven, I'll just tell you, this is conventional wisdom. It is proven that after they come in, it's less likely that they will quit the game. And if you run ad campaign that's less targeted, you can potentially save a lot of money. So buying cheaper traffic that's less targeted, and it depends on the game, right? So obviously that kind of behavior works for Gardenscapes type games. So they can be less targeted and still be still worthwhile. So it depends. If you have a high ARPU game, maybe this doesn't work as well. But the first time player comes to your game, the game designer needs to think about what do the players do first? What do they do within the 1 to 5 minutes? You do have to break it down to this granularity, and 15 minutes and 30 minutes, 1 hour, and or maybe why would the player come back the second time? So you have to design. Game have different loops. There's loops that finish in 5 minutes. There's loops that finish in 15 minutes, and there's bigger loops that finish in half an hour. So you could have different quests. Quests take time. You could give them a mystery box, a treasure box that's got a time counting down, and it may be something nice that will be automatically open. You can click it and open it in 15 minutes, and you'll see it counting down. And it's the play time, not the real world's time. So they have to stay in the game. And while they stay in the game, they may find other interesting, fun stuff to do in the game. So, that's a cheesy way to do it to retain players. It's very straightforward. You put a reward there, right? And when the time comes, it will unlock. So that's very straightforward, and it's quite easy to do. I've seen that in a lot of Chinese games, and it's cheesy, but it works. So I just want to throw this out there. Maybe you can come up with better systems, but to simply put time-based rewards. So reward them for staying. And then let's talk about 1 to 7 days. This part is retention, still focusing on retention. Keep them engaged, keep them stay in the game, keep them busy, keep them, do stuff. So they become emotionally invested. And most importantly, you gotta make them invest time. They come to the game, they do this, they get visual feedback, they get rewarded, they get level up, they kill this boss, and so give them a lot of serotonin release or dopamine releases. Serotonin is mostly from the other players, so make them feel like they belong, they're wanted, and they're welcomed. So yeah, 1 to 7 days, you should not be pressing them to pay. You're just trying to make sure they stay in the game, and it's habit forming. You make them form a habit. Come to a game at least once a day, do something, get stuff because it's free, daily quests. And then let's talk about the long term, 7 plus. 7 plus days in Tencent, for a lot of games, the people in charge of, in operation, people in charge of 1 to 7 days is one team. After 7 days, it goes to another team. It's the same game, but those players will be handled by a separate team. And those teams are focusing on monetization. Are you staying in the game? You better pay. If you don't pay, we're gonna make you suffer. We're gonna make it difficult for you. You're gonna grind. And to the point where you will rationalize yourself. I'm gonna stay in this game. I don't wanna, wait all the time. Why don't I, double my experience gaining speed? Why don't I, yeah, so, and then there's like VIP shop. So give them more and more reasons to open their wallet and pay something. And there's also a conventional wisdom that just, nickel and dime them first, a quarter, $1 at first. And then, once they see that they spend some money, they get a lot of fun and enjoyment, they may be willing to justify paying $10, $20. So in general, the industry standard for day one retention is 40%, meaning 40% of players stay after the day one. And the day 7 is 20%, and day 30 is 10%. Obviously, this will vary big time for different genres. So some high ARPU games, this is too high. This is probably, mid-range to casual games. And, the hyper-casual games, it's not very popular anymore. But hyper-casual games, they have really, really crappy numbers because this is not how they monetize. I mean, obviously it's still important, but this is not the only way they monetize. Okay, and always do soft launch, okay? So soft launch is when you test your retention. You soft launch, you wanna bring in 1,000 players and then, keep them for 7 days and then see what happens, see how many people stayed. And, you keep it going, but, the second week you can address the issues that you found from the previous week, and then you do another cohort, all right? And try to think about VIP subscriptions, just have them pay $3, and then they can enjoy this game a lot better. They get free stuff every day. Yeah, so the premium services for monthly, that's actually very valuable, but because for a game, what you want is you want your revenue to not fluctuate too much. So you have a baseline. And so this model is coming back, like lower fee, monthly fee. Everybody pays, but it's very little instead of free to play. Okay, I hope this is beneficial for you. Make sure you leave comments, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.